to go into our neighborhoods, to go into our community centers, to talk to our young boys and girls, and to be there for them, and that's so important to me.
At the CBS Evening News, we focus on solutions, finding solutions to healthcare problems, how much money we can spend on the groceries, finding solutions to help people understand what are the right choices to make for you and your family.
At the end of the day,
First and second, in Grant Park, we've met 89 times, along with countless committee meetings covering community engagement, concurrent NASCAR-sponsored events, infrastructure, public safety, and public transportation. We've also conducted several exercises and workshops, and we have workshops scheduled for later this month. Throughout the planning, we've considered impacts to businesses, alternative routes for motorists, weather impacts, community outreach, and much more. Our top priority during planning has been the safety of residents, visitors, and race attendees. OEMC, along with local and federal partners, will be monitoring events at the Operations Center, at the Forward Command Post in Grant Park, and we'll be activating the Emergency Operations Center for that weekend as well. Now I'd like to hand it over to Chris Patini, Manager of Emergency Management Services at OEMC, Tom Carney, the First Deputy Commissioner at CDOT, and Anthony Pasini, representing NASCAR. They will guide you through the upcoming street closures, reroutes, and important details we want residents to be aware of. Thank you all for being here today. Chris Patini.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to go through the traffic plan as it stands. We've been meeting weekly, if not more, for several months now, and as Jose Tirado stated, we started this planning process back in August of 2022. The street closures as they stand mainly are for the race course itself. There are going to be some other street closures outside the perimeter or the footprint just based on the race course itself. In addition to the paper plans that we've created, there is a link, and it shows right here, the NASCAR Chicago local guide that compiles all of this information into interactive maps, plane maps, reroutes, in addition to all of the street closures and detours that would be favorable to avoid the area or get around downtown based on the street closures. So the major street closure here is Wednesday, June 28th. We have implemented a merging taper, similar that you see on other construction sites or even on the Kennedy, using barrels to taper traffic down based on the southbound Lakeshore Drive closure. That will start near North Avenue. There will be plenty of variable message boards in addition to media outreach to advise drivers how to get around the area. Traffic will be reduced to one lane near Chicago Avenue, and traffic will get off at Grand with a merging taper down to one lane at Randolph. That'll be reopened by July 4th. The other closure, northbound Lakeshore Drive, begins Saturday, July 1st. That's race day at 4 a.m. Similarly, a merging taper, reducing traffic to 2 lanes near 47th, down to 1 at 31st. And we have come up with plans for access to the museum campus, harbors, and lakefront. So all vehicles heading northbound on Lakeshore Drive must exit at I-55, but vehicles requiring access to the museum campus, harbors, lakefront area can exit at 31st, utilizing Fort Dearborn to 18th Street. That gives them access then to the campus. And then in reverse, they can also take 18th to then head southbound, either onto Lakeshore Drive itself or onto I-55. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Tom Carney, First Deputy Commissioner of CDOT.
Thank you, Chris. Again, Tom Carney, First Deputy Commissioner, Chicago Department of Transportation. So I think the one thing I wanted to highlight, a lot of folks in our city and visitors to our city have experienced, maybe going down to downtown for New Year's Eve, or gone to one of the sports teams like Championship Rally or Lollapalooza. Just like all those events, it requires some planning ahead and thoughts of how you're going to get through the city and get to that event, whether it's carpooling or public transportation or some of the other modes such as bicycle. And really this event is no different. While it's the first time the city's having this event, while it's some different roadway closures than we're used to, it's really the philosophy is the same about planning ahead. I do want to highlight that I think one fundamental difference is there is a lot more resources available to the public that should aid in your planning. So that stands out a bit unique between what NASCAR and the city is putting out here. So again, all of us here today, we want to encourage everyone to plan ahead, to plan appropriately, and to use the resources that we are showcasing here today. I'm going to touch on the next few slides here talking about available race day routes. This first slide here covers your expressways and not the local roads, so to speak. So DuSable Lakeshore Drive northbound will remain open from South Shore Drive to I-55 merger. DuSable Lakeshore Drive southbound will remain open from Hollywood Boulevard to Randolph Street. The Dan Ryan Expressway, Kennedy Expressways, lanes will remain open in both directions. Eisenhower Expressway lanes will remain open in both directions, as well as the Stevenson Expressway. Next slide. Thank you. And then, of course, on the local roads, most of the corridors in what we call the downtown central business district will be open, where you'll see State Street, Dearborn, Clark, LaSalle, Wells Street, Franklin, and you have Upper and Lower Wacker Drive. Additionally, a lot of the east-west corridors, Randolph, Washington, Madison, Roosevelt west of Michigan, 18th Street and Cermak will also be available. Again, while these routes will be open, we are encouraging everyone to plan ahead and allow extra time as needed, and to look at the different transportation options such as public transportation. Whether you're going to this event or whether you're going to some of the other attractions or things in the city, or going to work or whatnot, and to travel to some of those other attractions, we're going to turn it over to Anthony Pasini from NASCAR.
Good morning, everyone. Anthony Pasini, serving as a consultant to the Chicago Street Race. As Tom mentioned about some of the available race day events, I wanted to specifically talk about directions to some of the larger venues and attractions in the city of Chicago, especially as summer kicks into high gear. For the museum campus, traveling from the north, people could utilize the Kennedy Expressway, access through the Stevenson, and then proceed to northbound Lakeshore Drive. And then, as Chris mentioned earlier, there would be an exit at 18th Street where vehicles can now access 18th Street and then proceed on Special Olympics Drive. And I should also mention, in terms of pedestrians and cyclists, the museum campus, the Columbus underpass will remain open throughout the pre-race, race weekend, and post-race for travel to the museum campus. Coming from the south, vehicles could utilize the Dan Ryan Expressway, and then again access the Stevenson, and then proceed on northbound Lakeshore Drive, exit at 18th Street, and then enter the museum campus. Alternatively, coming from the south, they could take northbound Lakeshore Drive and go directly to 31st Street, and then exit at 31st Street and proceed on Fort Dearborn to 18th Street, where they'll access the museum campus. from Navy to Navy Pier. The route from the north does not change. Vehicles could exit at Grand Avenue and then follow the signs to Navy Pier. Coming from the south, vehicles could take the Dan Ryan Expressway and then proceed to the Ohio Street exit, turn on Wells Street, and then head south on Wells Street to Illinois Street, where they'll be able to proceed east to Navy Pier. For vehicles traveling from the west, they could utilize the Eisenhower Expressway, merge onto the Kennedy, exit at Ohio Street, and then take the same route as the southbound travel that I just mentioned. NASCAR has developed a website, NASCARChicago.com/local info, where it has many maps, brochures, directions to guide vehicles to many of these locations that you see on the screen: the 31st Street Harbor, the Art Institute, the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, Museum Campus, Museum of Science and Industry. This is well thought out. It has the latest information regarding any street closures, directions, and just a wealth of information. So that is a resource for the latest information.
Thank you, Anthony. Before we get to questions and answers, we just want to let everybody know that we have put in a lot of time throughout this planning process. Some of the maps you've seen, the reroutes, the detours, extensive signage, and of course, we always urge everyone to take public transportation to and from the event. We'd like to advise you to download the OEMC app for any updated information on the street closures as well as alerts through Notify Chicago. As mentioned, extensive messaging will be out on the public way in addition to our traffic control aids to help facilitate traffic in the area. As Anthony just mentioned, also the NASCAR local info website has all of the information that we just went over. And with that, I'd like to open it up for any questions.
Want to start up here? Okay. This question, Tom, this involves you with CDOT, if you could address this. And then, is there any IDOT representative here? Or would that be just for the OEMC? No, IDOT, okay. So Tom, as I drove here, I took Lower Wacker. When you come up off of Lower Wacker, if you want to go west to the West Loop to get here, you still have Harrison closed over the Chicago River, and it's a huge crane, and it's a big pain. Now, I know that's not going toward the NASCAR race, but a lot of people are going to be practicing avoidance, and in your documentation, Lower Wacker is a big part of that. So you come up Lower Wacker this summer. Will Harrison still be completely shut down there over the river when it comes to this weekend? And then I have a second part of the question.
I'll have to follow up on the schedule. We are going to be doing a lot of our job sites, pulling back equipment and opening up as many corridors as we can on a variety of jobs in the downtown area.
Okay, if you could get back to us on that, that would be awesome. Okay, and then I know IDOT's not here. With the Kennedy being one of the main, alternates, or this will still be open. Obviously, we know you're still down 2 lanes on the Kennedy coming inbound. Was there any discussion with IDOT for them to pause some of their bridge rehab and add any additional lanes for commuters approaching July 1st on the Kennedy, just knowing how many thousands of people are coming in for the race? Was there any discussion with IDOT on maybe changing their Kennedy roadwork that weekend?
I can speak to that. The Department of Transportation has been having ongoing conversations with IDOT about not only that weekend, but a variety of events and ways to accelerate the work out there, and to make adjustments for not only this event, but a whole series of events coming to the city this summer and continuing into 2024.
I did not hear an answer in there.
I think IDOT has to.
IDOT has to answer that? Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Question for several of you. You can all address it, whoever would like to, but step back for a moment and just talk big picture. Why are we doing this today, a couple of weeks in advance of when it will actually be relevant before the race? Obviously, it's important. Obviously, it's going to impact a lot of people. But maybe you can talk about that and just help explain, why this is such a big deal.
Well, we take public safety planning very seriously here in the city of Chicago. This is our bread and butter. We do large events. We have a sterling reputation across the nation for such events. And it's part of the planning process. We want to make sure everyone is involved, everybody has skin in the game, and we don't want it to be a surprise to anyone.
Hi, Marissa Perlman from CBS here. A question on road quality of the course roads. Will they or have they been fixed? Will NASCAR be paying for that, or is that at a cost to the city and taxpayers?
So the Department of Transportation has worked closely with NASCAR starting last fall. Approximately a week and a half ago, we did a final course walkthrough with NASCAR. We have made repairs throughout different points of the course, and we all came to an agreement, signed off on the course is ready, the roadway is ready to host the event. So we feel confident about that. The repairs were all completed ahead of time. And in terms of, funding, it's part of the overall, I can't speak to the overall city budget for, the agreements between NASCAR and the city on, from police and fire to all the overall agreement.
Okay, so NASCAR is not participating in the expense of the repaving of the roads?
I would say it's part of an overall, it's part of a piece of an overall city NASCAR agreement.
And then, not really a traffic question, but maybe this is for our friends from NASCAR, if they can answer. We've gotten a lot of questions about viewing the race. For the local folks here who don't have tickets, will you be able to see or watch the race, and how?
The best way to view the race without a ticket would be on the broadcast channel. There will be a free event on race day to allow residents of the city to participate in some of the NASCAR planning and events, but they will not be able to view the race from the street side.
Hey, Dave Stroup from the Sun-Times. I think the merging taper is news today. People weren't expecting that for lanes to be closed between North Avenue and 47th Street. Can you explain the rationale behind closing those lanes?
Absolutely. A merging taper really helps to facilitate traffic flow. It would be irresponsible to let 4 lanes come all the way up to a hard closure. So really, it's also part of conditioning people. So in addition to the variable message boards, that merging taper, whether or not you're paying attention, really lets people know, okay, these closures are coming up. Maybe I have to get off and reroute. Oh, sorry. Chris, C-H-R-I-S, Pettinio, P-E-T-T-I-N-E-O.
Perspective, do you feel like the partners that you had all these meetings with here this weekend, et cetera, do you feel like they're satisfied with the plan?
Absolutely. This is what OEMC hangs our hat on, is coordination and collaboration. And frankly, I have had so many meetings with all of our partners. It's really great to see it come together. It was a little painful at first, but honestly, once we got into a rhythm, we set up the committees, and we set that cadence, as First Deputy Carney mentioned, they actually finished ahead of time. So setting those goals and sticking to them worked wonders. Plan ahead, plan extra time. There will be congestion. I mean, when I woke up and I live north and all of a sudden the Kennedy, I plan 2 hours every morning now. It just is what it is, you know? But we have done our due diligence as far as this plan, the reroutes, the signage. There will be congestion. It's a holiday weekend. Regardless of the race, there will be congestion.
With the holiday weekend, obviously, though, that does work in your favor because there's fewer commuters coming downtown to work during that time, I assume.
Maybe, maybe not. I mean, just coming down to enjoy the city. I mean, who doesn't want to come downtown and enjoy the city? It's great.
Knowing what you have to go through this time around, will you be willing to repeat the experience next year?
I think I can speak for everyone that this is a first-time event, and if we didn't get the planning right the first time around, then shame on us. And that's why we stuck to this schedule. It was rigorous. 6 committees, in addition to general citywide meetings, countless breakout meetings, but all of our partners had skin in the game. And again, this is what we do. We're not gonna drop the ball. We can't. We're Chicago.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.